In this video, we'll be taking apart the Motorola Moto G Stylus 5G 2024. If you're interested in seeing more videos like this, make sure you subscribe and click on the notification bell so you'll be notified once I upload a new video. Also, if you need any tools, there are links in the description. To start off, we'll remove the SIM tray and the stylus. Looking at the SIM tray, we can see a black rubber gasket around the opening. And here's a look at the stylus. At this point, heat needs to be applied to the back using either a hairdryer or a heat gun to loosen up the adhesive underneath, and then a pry tool can be used to pry the back off. Here's a look at the vegan leather back cover. The LED flashboard is located here. As for the camera lens covers, those can be replaced by applying heat and prying them off, so you don't need to take apart the phone to replace those. There are now 16 Phillips screws which need to be removed. Taking a look at the top plastic cover, we see multiple antenna lines drawn, which are the light gray color lines, as well as the NFC antenna. The wireless charging coil is located here. Taking a look at the other side, we see an area of graphite film to help transfer heat. There's additional graphite film over the battery and motherboard. The battery cable can now be disconnected, followed by the rest of the cables. As for the coaxial cables, those can be disconnected by just popping them off. There's a single Phillips screw holding down the main board. Taking a look at the main board, we see the 50 megapixel primary camera, as well as the 13 megapixel ultra-wide. The main camera is the only one with OIS or optical image stabilization. The camera connectors can be disconnected by just popping them off. There's a liquid damage indicator sticker next to the primary camera, which is that white sticker, and there's copper tape over the shields to help transfer heat. Looking at the other side, there's a proximity sensor on the top corner, the 32 megapixel front-facing camera in the top center, and a secondary microphone on this corner. There's additional copper tape and graphite film on the back shields to help transfer heat, as well as thermal paste. Also underneath the graphite film and copper tape, there's a SIM and memory card reader. Once the copper tape has been peeled back, we see more thermal paste on top of the processor. Taking a look at the bottom speaker assembly, we see another antenna line drawn on the plastic cover. And here's the speaker itself. There's a single Phillips screw which is holding down the subboard. Alright, looking at the subboard, we see a rubber gasket on the charger port, as well as the headphone jack. On the other side, we can see the primary microphone underneath the covered shield. The vibrator motor is located on the bottom corner, and it's one of the old school vibrator motors, so no haptic feedback motor here. And the fingerprint sensor is located over here. To replace either of those, there's some adhesive holding down the flex cable for the vibrator motor, as well as the fingerprint sensor. So just apply some heat and gently pry them off. For anyone worried about inserting the SIM ejector tool in the wrong hole, on this phone you would actually damage the rubber gasket and filter, both on the bottom and top, since they are seated against the hole or opening on the frame. And if you were to insert the SIM ejector tool in the hole, you'd most likely puncture the filter. However, the microphones will be fine, since those are seated above the holes. Taking a look at the battery, we can see that Motorola still is not using any pull tabs or adhesive pouches to help you pry the battery off. So we are going to have to use some isopropyl alcohol and apply it to the sides of the battery, and let it sit for about 20 to 30 seconds, so it eats away at the adhesive underneath, making it easier to pry it off. This is the 5000 mAh battery. Once the battery is removed, we have a better look at the flex cables which run underneath, and we can see that this one connects the main board to the subboard, and this flex cable is for the screen which is routed through an opening in the mid-frame. So if you needed to replace the screen, you'd have to remove the back cover, the screws on the top plastic cover and the cover itself, you'd have to disconnect the screen cable and the battery cable, pry the battery off giving you access to the screen cable, at which point you would heat up the front of the phone where the screen is to loosen up the adhesive underneath, pry the old screen off, apply new adhesive, reapply the new screen making sure you run the flex cable back to the opening in the mid-frame, and reassemble the phone. Once this flex cable has been peeled back, we have a better look at the 3D graphite which runs underneath the battery, as well as the motherboard. And the 3D graphite helps to transfer heat. The flex cable for the volume keys and power button is routed through an opening in the mid-frame, so if you need to replace that, you'd also have to pry the screen off. That's one thing I really don't like about this design on most of the Motorola phones, since if you needed to replace that flex cable, you'd have to risk damaging the screen by prying it off. The earpiece speaker is located on top, which is also held down with some adhesive. To replace that, just apply some heat and pry it off. There is also another liquid damage indicator sticker, which is that white sticker, on the frame underneath the SIM reader. As for the plastic cover over the Stylus enclosure, that can be removed by applying heat and prying it off. For the repairability score on this phone, I give it a 5 out of 10. Now it's time to put the phone back together. Once everything's back in place, apply new adhesive and reapply the back cover. Flip over the phone, power it on, and you're done. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.